This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. Warnings have been given. If you trade in bushmeat, then you will be prosecuted. A head teacher is accused of corruption, but refuses to step down. And I interview a man whose life was devastated by a fire that destroyed all he had saved for. But firstly, the illegal trade in bushmeat, as bushmeat is still a major issue in Cambodia. The thousands of snares removed each and every year are testimony to that fact. And the cruelty of these snares is unmatched, as they show no discrimination. As any animal that gets trapped within them will die a slow and painful death. The more the trapped animal struggles to get free, the more the wire bites deeper into its flesh. But it is the numbers gleaned from a study by Cambridge University Press that tell a truly frightening tale. After interviewing over 700 rural households back in 2021, living within the Khmer Wildlife Sanctuary, they learned that wild meat was consumed by an incredible 84% of households they interviewed. And 20% of all households questioned said they were active in trapping wild animals for bush meat. This situation is extremely urgent, and the Zero Snare campaign this week looked to make more headway, as Takao and Kampot departments of environment are raising further awareness. Large signs are now being placed across the provinces, warning that the trapping of wild animals for food is not only illegal, but will also be punished by the law. But with the consumption of bushmeat being so very widely accepted in rural communities, it is going to be many long years before this cruel trade is totally eradicated from the nation. But stiffer laws and the enforcement of these laws is certainly a step in the right direction. This week on our crime desk, a teacher with a neck of solid brass who refuses to step down no matter what, a man loses all due to faulty wiring, and a real brother trucker does the traditional. In the news this week is the unfathomable story of a school principal who is accused of corruption. And it is not only the parents that are protesting against this guy, but also the pupils, as well as the teachers. Blimey. Here in this next shot, you see the teachers themselves calling for the removal of not only their headmaster, but also the deputy head as well. And to tell you the truth, I have never heard of a more interesting situation playing out in a school. It is quite startling. The situation has got this bad. The school itself is Chi Sim Va High School in Phnom Penh, and the teachers there are demanding the immediate removal from the school of the principal, a Mr. Bun Money, and the deputy principal as well, a Yi Leng. The protesting teachers, parents and students all allege that the principal and his deputy are mismanaging the school, acting abusively towards both teachers and pupils, and worst of all, exploiting students for financial gain. The situation is now so very bad that teachers will not be holding any more classes, nor will they be attending any meetings. They ask that the Ministry of Education remove the pair immediately. And Miss Chan Tari, a teacher there, said the principal is improperly withdrawing school funds and embezzling money. And she has tried to report it to authorities, but says no one will listen to her. Another teacher, Miss Chan Hoot, said that corruption was being orchestrated by this very principal. And the teachers have now even gone so far as to lodge a complaint with the anti-corruption unit to try and get their case heard. For now, the school is in a state of paralysis, and it would seem a place of learning has become a battlefield where a war of words rages on. Now, the next crime we are to feature is the crime of negligence, due to a workman not taking proper precautions. As faulty wiring caused devastation to one man's life. The first I heard of this is when someone sent me a video of a huge plume of black smoke that was rising up over the city of Siem Reap. It was so visible, it was not long before numerous videos and images started flooding the internet. And it quickly became a hot topic on social media, everyone wondering what it was that was so wildly ablaze. I myself had the exact same thought. So, looking at my job description and being a journalist, I realized it was for me to investigate. So I jumped on my bike to see what was going on. There were police and fire engines everywhere, sirens filling the air, and hordes of police officers as well as the general public littered every nearby street. Now, did you note in that last piece of footage a bulldozer? Well, that bulldozer was brought in on the back of a large flatbed truck, and it was positioned near the fire in the event that it was needed to take down any buildings. The situation at one point was indeed considered critical. One large hotel was severely burned, its windows blown out. But next door, a restaurant was totally gutted. And walking through it, it was plain to see that this restaurant was someone's livelihood. But now, all that remained was a blackened shell of what was someone's pride and joy. I, in fact, later in the day, met with the owner of that restaurant. And although he was too upset to be videoed, he did consent to me taking his photo and for me to tell his story. He told that until recently he had been a resident of Sweden, and he had returned to his homeland of Cambodia to settle down in his older age. And he had put his savings into that little restaurant, and he was very proud of it. But due to faulty wiring, all he now had left was charred remains and the dark ashes of what once was his dream. The truth is, it was deeply upsetting to speak with this man, but I know that we all wish him the very best of luck with rebuilding his life. We are running a little bit long this week, so a very quick one to close up this crime desk, and it is this story of a man who was so bad at driving his 18-wheel truck, he managed to flip it when encountering a roundabout. It seems he was barreling along, shifting gears, and he utterly failed to compensate for the fact that roundabouts are round. and they do demand that you steer around them. The driver slammed on his brakes, he overcorrected, and quite incredibly, he managed to flip an 18-wheel truck. And what he spilt was a huge cargo of what I believe is corn flour. Now then, if this was to happen to you, what would you do next? Maybe you would jump out of the truck to check to see if other motorists were injured. Or maybe you would go on to Khmer 24 with the view of buying the biggest shovel available to help clear up the mess. Well, not for this brother trucker, for he took another course of action. He opened the door of his cab, he stepped down the 2 metal steps, his feet hit the tarmac, and then he legged it. Off down the road he went with his arms flailing, leaving local traffic police to clear up literally tons of his mess. The police, needless to say, now know exactly who he is, and they are rather keen to speak with him. And to our final story this week, and it's all about the scourge of drugs. Firstly, let me show you what I do not tell you. And what I mean by that is I rarely report on drug busts, as they are so very frequent. But here are just a few very recent headlines. We start with a bust of a staggering 100 kilos a couple of weeks back. And then there was this. Cambodia arrests 4 cross-border drug traffickers and seizes over 254 kilos. And if that ain't big enough for you, how about this monster? Over 700 kilos of drugs and chemicals seized in one single raid. Now that is just enormous. And that final huge bust resulted in the arrest of 4 people. The anti-drug department, in cooperation with the Phnom Penh Municipal Police and the Kandal Provincial Police, raided 2 properties. The first they targeted was in Kandal Province, and the second was in Phnom Penh itself. During the operation, special forces arrested 4 Cambodian suspects, and what they seized stretches credulity. Allow me to list it for you. There was not 1, but 3 types of methamphetamine. There was methamphetamine MDY, methamphetamine YW, and methamphetamine ICY, as well as ketamine. But the vast majority of the drugs that was busted was an unspecified chemical compound, which is used as the base ingredient to manufacture methamphetamine. These busts only ever seem to get bigger. And it's not just tens of kilos being captured anymore, but hundreds of kilos at a time, as the peddlers of death continue their vile and cruel trade. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. Okay, thank goodness that show is over. You wouldn't believe how difficult it can be sometimes. You get all sorts of audio problems, visual problems, colour problems, balance. It just goes on and on and on. What can go wrong? It's a very delicate beast, trying to make it look like it's so easy, just talking to the camera. But I'm telling you, it blinking well ain't. And it's a bit like the weather, I suppose. It's all jolly stormy at times, because what we have is rain across the board for the first time this year. Humidity is still up in the 50% region, and the highs on the weather, on the actual temperature, it's going to be as high as 37, 38 degrees. So watch out for people like me. And what I mean by that is people in bad moods, because when that humidity's high and that temperature's high, my goodness, people get grouchy. This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly roundup.